I told them I got a small raise. My stepdad smiled and said, "Good. You can pay more now." Then he asked for receipts. That's when I knew I had to. I didn't move back into my mother's house in Cincinnati because I wanted comfort. I moved back because I ran out of money. It wasn't dramatic. No cheating scandal or huge betrayal. Just a slow collapse. A breakup that left me with half a lease I couldn't afford, shared bills that somehow became mine, and savings that disappeared faster than I thought possible. By the time I packed what I could fit in my car, I wasn't thinking about pride anymore. I just needed somewhere to go. So I went back to my mom. Doris Carter opened the door like nothing had changed. She hugged me, told me I could stay as long as I needed, told me we'd figure things out. And for a little while, I believed that. The first couple of weeks were quiet. I stayed out of the way. I worked from my laptop in my old bedroom. I cleaned, did dishes, picked up groceries when I could. I didn't want to feel like a burden. Alan Campbell, my stepdad, barely said anything at first. He watched. That's the only way I can describe it. He paid attention to everything without making it obvious. Then the question started. How many hours are you working this week? You getting paid on time? That job stable? I answered honestly because I didn't think I had a reason not to. I was working as a content writer then. It wasn't great money, but it was steady enough. One night after dinner, Alan leaned back in his chair and said, "Since you're earning, you should be contributing." I nodded immediately. Yeah, of course. I can help. That part made sense to me. I wasn't expecting to live there for free. So I started with groceries. Then part of the electric bill. Then the internet. Then gas. Then anything that came up that week. It didn't happen all at once. It built slowly, piece by piece, until I stopped noticing when helping turned into covering everything. Every time I adjusted, Alan had a reason. You work from home sometimes, so electricity's higher. You use the internet more than we do. Household costs add up. It always sounded logical. That was the problem. My mom stayed quiet most of the time. If she spoke, it was soft. He just wants everyone to be responsible. Responsible became the word for everything. If I bought coffee, it was irresponsible. If I ordered food after work, irresponsible. If I bought clothes, even cheap ones, irresponsible. If I hesitated about paying something, Alan would say, "You're an adult, Cheryl. This is what adults do." It never felt like a conversation. It felt like a rule I hadn't agreed to but was expected to follow. The first time he asked for a receipt, I thought he was joking. I came home with a bag from the store. Shampoo, toothpaste, socks, and a pair of black flats for work because my old ones were falling apart. Alan looked at the bag and said, "What did that cost?" "Not much. Around 60. He held out his hand. "Let me see the receipt." I laughed a little. "Why?" He didn't smile. "Because if money's tight, I need to know where it's going." Something about the way he said it made my stomach drop. My money. My paycheck. But suddenly it felt like something I had to justify. I looked toward the kitchen. My mom was there, rinsing a cup. She didn't turn around. So I handed him the receipt. He read it line by line, like he was checking for mistakes. Then he tapped the shoes. Could have waited. They were $24. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just stood there while he handed the receipt back like he had proven a point. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and realized something I didn't want to admit. If I stayed like this, I wasn't going to get out. I was going to keep paying more, explaining more, shrinking more, until I didn't have anything left that felt like mine. After that, everything changed. Not outside. Inside. I stopped sharing details. If Alan asked about work, I kept it vague. Busy. Same as usual. Nothing new. I stopped mentioning how many hours I worked or what I was earning. I thought maybe if I gave less information, things would settle down. They didn't. If anything, it made him watch me more closely. If I brought home anything new, he noticed. If I had takeout, he noticed. If I came home later than usual, he noticed. "Must be nice," he'd say. Thought money was tight. Funny how that works. It got to the point where I started planning what I wore, what I bought, even what I threw away. I didn't want questions. I didn't want another moment like the receipt. My friend Ruby Stewart noticed before I said anything. We met for coffee one afternoon, and I tried to make it sound like a joke. I said, "Apparently I need approval to buy socks now." She didn't laugh. She just looked at me and said, "That's not normal, Cheryl." I shrugged. I live there. I should help. She shook her head. Helping isn't the same as being monitored. That stuck with me. A few weeks later, everything shifted. A recruiter named Teresa Mitchell reached out about a media buyer position. I almost ignored it. It felt out of my league. But she encouraged me to apply, so I did. I interviewed twice. The second time with a logistics manager named Justin Adams. I thought I messed it up. I talked too much, second-guessed everything, left feeling like I wasn't what they were looking for. Then Teresa called. "They want to offer you the role." I was sitting in my car outside a grocery store when the email came in. I opened it, saw the salary, and just stared at it. It was more than I expected. Enough to change things. Enough to get out. My first instinct should have been excitement. Instead, the first thought that hit me was, don't tell them. I sat there for a long time, just thinking. If I told Alan the real number, everything would change. Not for me. For him. The contributions would go up. The expectations would go up. My money would stop feeling like mine again. So when I got home, I lied. My mom was folding laundry. Alan was at the table. I got the job, I said. My mom smiled. That's amazing. Alan looked up. What's the pay? I kept my voice steady. A little more than what I'm making now. Nothing huge. He nodded. Then he smiled. Good. You can pay more now. And just like that, the decision was made. That night, I opened a new bank account. Different bank. No paper statements. I changed my direct deposit so most of my paycheck would go there, and only a portion would go into the account they knew about. Enough to match the lie. Enough to keep things looking the same. The first time I confirmed it, I felt sick. Like I was doing something wrong. But then I looked around my room. The same room I grew up in. The same feeling of being watched, measured, managed. And I realized something. I wasn't stealing. I wasn't betraying them. I was making sure I had a way out. And for the first time since I moved back, I felt like I might actually get one. Work became the only place where I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. The office was in downtown Cincinnati, nothing fancy, just a normal building with bad coffee and people who minded their own business. And that alone felt strange to me. No one asked what I spent my money on. No one questioned how many hours I worked like it was a test. Justin Adams would stop by my desk and say things like, good work on that campaign, and just keep walking. No follow-up. No hidden meaning. Teresa checked in during my first few weeks and said, you're adjusting quickly. I nodded, but inside I kept thinking, if you saw my home life, you'd understand why this feels easy. Even Beverly Cook, who worked as a data scientist, started sitting with me at lunch. She didn't pry. She didn't analyze me. She just talked about work, about random things, about her weekend plans. Normal conversations. I didn't realize how much I missed that until I had it again. Because every time I left that building and drove back to the house, I could feel it. That shift. Like I had to shrink before I even walked through the door. I started thinking ahead constantly. What I was wearing. What I bought that day. Whether anything looked new. Whether anything could trigger a comment. I stopped bringing things home right away. If I bought something, I left it in my car and brought it in slowly. One item at a time. Like I was sneaking my own life past someone else. I rotated the same clothes. I avoided takeout. I stopped meeting Ruby as much because I didn't want to explain where I was going or what I was spending. It wasn't just exhausting. It was constant. But it worked. Alan didn't question the numbers because the numbers didn't change. The account he knew about still showed the same pattern. Bills paid. Groceries covered. No big jumps. No obvious difference. To him, everything looked the same. But it wasn't. For the first time in months, I had money building somewhere he couldn't touch. At first, it was small. Just a few $100s. Then more. Every paycheck added something to that hidden account, and every time I checked it, I felt two things at the same time. Relief. And guilt. Relief because it meant I had options. Guilt because I was hiding it. One night, Alan sat across from me while I was eating and said, your hours seem off. I looked up. What do you mean? He shrugged. Some weeks you're busy. Some weeks not. Doesn't make sense. My chest tightened, but I kept my voice steady. It depends on projects. He watched me for a second longer than necessary, then said, you should be working more. I am, I said. He shook his head slightly. If you're not earning enough, that's on you. There it was again. Everything came back to what I owed. My mom was at the sink, quiet like always. Later that night, I texted Ruby. I said, do you ever feel like you're being watched even when you're doing nothing wrong? She replied, that's not normal. I stared at the message for a long time. I knew it wasn't normal. But it had become normal for me. That was the problem. A few weeks later, everything got worse. Alan lost his job. He came home earlier than usual and just set it straight. They're downsizing. I'm out. No build-up. No explanation. Just that. The house felt different immediately. Quieter, but heavier. Alan was home all the time now. Watching TV, checking his phone, walking around like he was waiting for something to happen. My mom looked stressed in a way I hadn't seen before, like she was trying to keep everything from falling apart. And I knew exactly what was coming. The next morning, Alan said, we need to talk. I sat down at the table. My mom stood nearby, not sitting, just there. We're going to have to adjust, he said. I nodded slowly. You're going to need to step up. Not asked. Told. I said, I already help a lot. He looked at me like I had said something wrong. This is different, he said. When one person falls, the others carry the weight. It sounded reasonable. But it didn't feel reasonable. Because in that house, carrying the weight didn't mean temporary help. It meant permanent responsibility. For the next few days, he started asking more questions. How much are you making now, really? Are you sure that's accurate? Maybe you should take on extra work. Nights, weekends. Every question felt like pressure building behind something I was trying to hold in place. One night, I almost told the truth. My mom and I were sitting at the table. Alan was in the other room. She looked tired. Really tired. She said quietly, "We're going to be okay, right?" And for a second, I saw her differently. Not just as someone who stayed quiet, but as someone who was stuck too. I almost said it. I almost said, "I'm doing better than you think. I can help more." But then I thought about what would happen after that. There would be no end to it. No line. No limit. Helping would turn into expectation. Expectation would turn into obligation. And I would be right back where I started, just with more money disappearing. So I didn't say it. The next day, when Alan asked again, I leaned into the lie. I said, "My hours actually got cut a little. Things are slowing down." He frowned. "You didn't mention that." "It just happened," I said. "I'm trying to be careful." I even reduced what I was giving them slightly, just enough to make it believable. That was the moment everything shifted. Because now, I wasn't just hiding. I was choosing. Choosing myself over what they expected from me. Alan didn't raise his voice. He just looked at me and said, "Disappointing." That word sat heavier than anything else he had said. Disappointing. Not struggling. Not trying. Disappointing. But for the first time, it didn't break me. If anything, it made things clearer. Because no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough. So I stopped trying to make it enough. That night, I opened my laptop and started looking at apartments. Not just thinking about leaving. Planning it. The first apartment I applied for didn't work out. I got the email rejection while I was sitting in my car after work, and for a second, it felt like everything was slipping again. Like maybe I had overestimated how close I was to getting out. Then I checked my other account. The one no one knew about. And just seeing that number sitting there, growing quietly over the past months, grounded me again. I wasn't stuck. I wasn't scrambling like before. I just needed to keep going. So I did. I started scheduling apartment tours after work, telling Alan I had late meetings or extra projects. I kept everything simple, consistent, nothing that would invite more questions. I built a folder on my laptop with everything I might need. Pay stubs, bank statements, employment verification. I made sure everything looked clean, stable, believable. It felt strange, preparing to leave a place without anyone knowing. Like I was already gone, just waiting for the last step. A few days later, I visited a small apartment complex on the edge of Cincinnati. Nothing special, but quiet. Clean. The kind of place where no one would ask questions just because they could. A man named Peter Hill met me in the leasing office. He looked over my application and documents, asked a few standard questions, nothing personal, nothing invasive. Income looks steady, he said. You shouldn't have any issues qualifying. That was it. No suspicion. No control. No one trying to measure what I deserved. Just a simple process. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in months. 2 days later, I got the approval. I sat on my bed reading the email, and it didn't feel real at first. Not like excitement, not like relief. More like silence. Like something in my life had finally stopped pressing down on me. I didn't tell them right away. I waited until everything was signed. Lease confirmed. Deposit paid. Move-in date locked. I knew how things worked in that house. If there was any room for discussion, it would turn into pressure. If there was time, it would turn into doubt. So I kept it to myself. Then, on a Sunday afternoon, I said it. I signed a lease. My mom looked up immediately. What? I'm moving out, I said. The room went still. When? She asked. 2 weeks. She sat down slowly, like the words hadn't fully settled yet. Alan didn't speak right away. He just stared at me. Then he said, "So you're leaving?" Not a question. I nodded. I need my own place. He let out a short breath. After everything we've done for you. There it was. The same line, just said differently. I've been helping, I said. I've been paying for things. I've done what you asked. That's not the point, he said. This is family. You don't just walk away when things get hard. Something in me finally pushed back. I didn't walk away when things got hard for me, I said. I stayed. I helped. I adjusted every time things changed. And now when we need you, you're gone, he said. That word again. Need. But it didn't feel like need. It felt like ownership. My mom spoke softly. Cheryl, maybe you could wait a little longer. Just until things settle. I looked at her and for a moment, I saw what staying would look like. Always adjusting. Always giving. Always explaining. Becoming smaller over time. I can't, I said. Alan shook his head slowly. Disappointing. For the last time, that word landed between us. But this time, it didn't stick. Because I finally understood something. You don't need help, I said. You need control. And I'm done being part of that. The room went quiet. No one argued. No one stopped me. The next 2 weeks were tense but quiet. Conversations were short. My mom tried to act normal, asking about work, offering dinner, but there was distance now. Alan barely spoke to me at all. When moving day came, I packed the last of my things early in the morning. Most of it was already gone in small trips over the past weeks. My mom stood by the door. "Call me when you get there," she said. "I will." She hugged me tight, like she didn't want to let go. Alan stayed in the living room. He didn't come to the door. I waited for a second, just in case. He didn't say anything. So I left. The drive to my apartment felt quiet in a way I wasn't used to. Not tense. Not heavy. Just quiet. When I unlocked the door and stepped inside, it felt almost unreal. No questions. No comments. No one watching. I set my keys on the counter and just stood there. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm. Not excited. Not overwhelmed. Just calm. It's been a few months now. I pay my own bills. I buy what I need without thinking about it. I meet Ruby for coffee without checking the time. I go to work, come home, and everything in that space is mine. My mom calls sometimes. The conversations are careful now. A little distant. Alan doesn't really talk to me. And I still think about it. The lie. The money I hid. The way I left. Sometimes I wonder if I made things worse by not being honest. But then I remember how it felt to hand over a receipt for $24 shoes. How it felt to explain every dollar I spent. How it felt to slowly disappear in a place that was supposed to help me. I didn't leave because I stopped caring. I left because I finally cared about myself more. And I keep asking myself the same question. If I had told the truth from the beginning, would anything have been different? Or would I still be there, just with less money and even less control over my own life? I don't know. So was I wrong for lying about my salary and hiding money just so I could leave?